No, hold on. Northtown.
Northtown. Yeah, I was like 2 cars behind the guy at the window, or at the speaker box, and just had my foot on the brake, fucking conked out, and then everybody in front of me went ahead.
So you were fortunate enough
that
your foot did not like ease up off the brake when you fell asleep.
Yeah.
And
then so I'm like,
just like a honk, I'm guessing.
No, there's nobody behind me.
Oh, fuck.
So I'm just sitting there, fucking 2 squares back, and the gal from the fucking window, she comes out, and she knocks on the car door, scares the shit out of me.
And then
I went around front, parked the car, and went in.
Why didn't you just finish the drive-through situation?
Because at that very moment I was embarrassed, and I was like, fuck this, I'm out.
And pretend to be somebody else?
And I was like, I'm hungry.
So, dealing with a different set of people.
And they didn't know it was me, because they were sitting in there, they were like, who falls asleep in the drive-through?
You heard them talking about it?
Yeah. In the back. It's like, I don't know, I was fucking exhausted. But,
well, I know that you're a fucking narcolep.
Yeah, the excuse doesn't work for everybody.
I'll set up your thing.
Oh, I forgot your goddamn card game.
Wow. By the way, I'm at Bonta.
And I'm Cory, Easley.
And this
is a sequel podcast.
Sequel Productions presents a sequel production
to a sequel of a production.
The companion podcast to the films produced through Sequel Productions Pictures, presented by... Anyways, it's been a while.
I was curious how far you were going to take it.
I was hoping for more, but then I ran out.
Ran out of gas?
Yes. The last time we podcasted was you and me in December.
What did we talk about?
Well, the name of the episode is like Miles Dyson.
Oh,
so it was
that's one. Right. That was the one where I tirade on
like 5 hours about a bullet and how it works.
Yeah, about...
So, when we left off, Cory was telling us, can you finish your bullet story?
I think I did enough damage with that one. Probably got 0 views.
Let's call... Yeah, just a lot. It was the lowest viewed episode.
Even I didn't watch it.
Tied with all the other lowest viewed episodes. So...
Which is most of them.
This is going to be the wrestling episode.
We've been waiting to do this. We've been, like...
Waiting a week.
Starting and stopping on the conversation so that we don't...
It's probably the only one.
The only one we've been, like...
Yeah, like we can't talk. Let's do it on the pod.
Right. Well, we didn't want to waste the opportunity.
Well, because we've never talked about wrestling.
Okay, that's true.
We have yet to talk about wrestling. And have we?
I don't think we've ever talked. Maybe like briefly with Greg or Dakota, but not in depth.
Do you think we talked to Dakota about wrestling?
No.
Okay.
I was just saying, like,
by your reaction.
Well, I don't know. It was like.
Well, I mean, why would you say Dakota unless you felt that?
Because he's somebody else that we would like get into an off-topic conversation with.
Right, he goes deep on everything.
Right, he goes deep on everything, and then like something will just pop out, and we'll just like dive on it and go.
See, he's another one of those people though that I feel like I've never discussed wrestling with.
Okay.
So
maybe he should be here.
No, I barely even know if he's alive. So
he's a busy man.
Is he? I don't know.
I mean, we're all busy.
I mean, beyond regular busy.
I mean, what's regular busy when you have 2 kids?
Well, regular busy is like you got stuff to do, and that's what you get to first. But then there's stuff that you also would like to do that you obviously need to make time for.
Right, and I think that's a personal, like, it's a personal failure for everybody at some point, where you have shit that you want to do outside of your shit you have to do, and it's difficult.
I don't understand how you can't not you personally,
proverbial you,
not you personally, but like
a proverbial you.
Like, I don't understand, like, when my sister is this artist, right? But she doesn't do anything anymore.
Right.
And I don't, and I'm like, well, she's got one kid, one little, like, 3-year-old, or almost 3.
Right.
And it's not like she's working.
Okay.
So, like, why can't you just sit there with, like, a pad and start drawing some stuff?
I mean, you could.
Right.
Little kids are, I mean, they're a full-time job, man. That's why you have to pay somebody during the day to take care of them if you have a job.
Well, she doesn't have a job.
Right, but that means she has to do it.
Well, I mean, there's the kid running around playing, watching TV or something.
Right. But
draw in between, set it down if you need to, you know, like, or, I'm no doubt the kid falls asleep at a certain point, takes a nap.
Sure. Especially, I mean, mine's too.
And maybe, like, her guy isn't home at that time. So, like, if the kid's asleep, unless you're also taking a nap at the same time.
At some point, there's other shit that needs to get done. There's wash and food and cleaning the house, and kids are tough on shit, so you're always cleaning something up. And they're not autonomous. That's all depends on the personality of the kid, whether or not they're willing to go out and play on their own versus they want you to play with them all the time, and if you don't have other kids for them to play with, you have to spend a shitload of time, and then, of course, as a parent, you want to be enriching to your kids, so you don't want to just, like, let them rot in front of the TV all the time. Sometimes it's okay, but you want to engage them in coloring and painting and teaching them shit. Like, it's all part of the deal.
There's some things I don't get.
Well, until you get into it here. I was saying until you have little kids
while the mic
at
is
home.
Hot.
Until you have little kids at home, like of your own, full time, I don't think you can get it, because I didn't get it before either.
No. That's not what I'm talking about. No, I get it. There's something else that I don't get more specifically.
Sure.
That I'm not going to discuss on the hot mic. Radio silence. I don't
All right,
picking it up because I've got wrestling on the TV, so I don't know if we're picking up.
This is like.
So maybe I can like do like a minimize, and then we can also look at the same time that we're getting picked up. Oh, that looks good, right? How's that look?
It's awesome.
Like, but like I want to not maximize that. Is that okay?
Let's just split screen it.
You know what? Mikey did that one time. I don't know how to do that. That's fine. No, that's fine. That's fine. That's a big enough picture. Shit's off there. There's our shit.
If you grab the top bar of each of the windows you want and drag it all the way to the left and right,
I saw when Mikey came over here to put this stupid fucking thing in, he just hit like a thing and it just went.
Yeah, there's probably a shortcut to.
But I'm not smart enough.
Split. I don't know it either.
By the way, those 2 chips or whatever it is that we got yesterday should be here on Monday.
Nice.
Even though it said not in stock until like the end of the month, but so hopefully they get here. They shipped. They shipped. So.
Good. Fuck it.
Anyways.
So this is.
Hold on.
Come on, let's do it. Let's go fucking around.
We got a little house cleaning to do. We haven't talked since December. But we're made of a thing, right? Did we make a thing?
Yeah, we finished Savage.
We finished Savage. Kind of finished Savage.
I mean, it's in post.
It's in post. Super post. Got to film one more scene for the post credits. The
post credit scenes.
But anyways, yeah. So Savage is coming soon.
Yeah.
I've already submitted it to Vegas.
Okay.
So hopefully it plays in Vegas.
They'll play anything.
They'll play anything. My biggest worry is that, like, so they're saying they're going live. And, I mean, things are starting to open up.
Right.
tonight, for instance, Wrestlemania is the first live event
Okay.
for WWE since COVID hit.
Wow.
So, okay, yeah, let's just get into it. Savage is coming. Maybe we'll do another podcast sometime.
I think. Once we get it, out in the open and people get to see it.
All right, so let's talk about. We're here to talk about wrestling.
We are.
We're here to talk about the
fine art
circle, the
fine art of ass kicking.
The fine art of ass kicking, and I've got some playing on the background here. It's the Hulk Hogan versus Andre the Giant. So, like, it's funny, though, because we've never talked about wrestling before, you and I. I don't think we've ever had a conversation about wrestling.
I don't think so either. Even not on the podcast.
Even not on the podcast. Like, back when I used to watch it was when we first became friends. In fact, I think that was Del End.
I remember in high school, you, like, being into wrestling. And right before we, or you, rather, joined the theater and tried out for a play, you had tried out for the wrestling team.
Because I remember I was on it.
You signed up for wrestling. I don't think there's a trying out.
No, they'll take what they can get.
They'll take warm bodies. It's the least popular scholastic sport, I think, right next to chess.
Next to fucking molestation and pedophilia.
That's pretty popular.
Too popular, some might say. I mean, even if there's one person, that's too many.
It's true.
Sorry,
I remember you being dark joke. I remember you being excited about a pair of shoes that you got.
Really?
Yes, they were like wrestling shoes or something.
Huh.
They were black and they were like kind of a high top canvas. I just remember that sticking out in my mind that you were excited about it.
Maybe I was.
They looked like a Converse.
You know, I think what you're thinking. I think you're thinking something else.
No.
I'm not saying you're wrong.
I remember it like it was yesterday.
But I don't think it has to do with wrestling.
Maybe not.
Because going into Hug freshman year, I was excited about doing wrestling.
Okay.
And I bought the ASIC wrestling shoes.
Okay.
Went down to that sports store. Is it still there over there off of, was it?
Going off of Keystone?
Yeah.
Yeah,
is that still there?
No. That is a thrift store now.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
It was Play It Again Sports.
I went down there and got my ASIC wrestling shoes for wrestling freshman year at Hug.
Okay.
But then, like, I hated it.
Hated wrestling?
We didn't even get to the wrestling point before I hated it.
Just like doing calisthenics?
Well, it's like, I'm a freshman, right? I'm 14 years old. Mm-hmm. And I'm going into a thing where there's a bunch of people who've been already doing it. Like, I'm
sure.
And there weren't any other
freshmen?
Yeah, I don't think there was. There might have been, but like not enough to feel like, oh, this is our group going
like
in.
Like it's fair.
Yeah.
Like you're going in, heading up against dudes that have been doing it for 2 and 3 years.
Right.
Because it's against weight class. It's not really necessarily against your own class.
That's right. But that wasn't even an issue at that point. It was just like, I didn't know these people. It didn't feel... It just felt like, oh, hey, let's do it. This is what we're doing. And then they started asking us to go around and get, like, sponsorship from places.
Yeah.
And that, like... I can't even see you.
I know. I'm like...
You, like, fucking...
Well, it's because the mic wants to hang down.
Move it... Well, I mean, move it down and flip it up. I'm, like, talking to them about, like, a black dot. I think that should be good. There you are, Cory. All right.
That's better.
Hey!
Now it's more like what's that? What was that one? Fucking Howard Stern. I think this is like way off topic. I feel like Howard Stern kind of
paved the way for podcasting.
Piloted the podcasting thing, kind of like how Joe Rogan does it and Howard Stern does it. Because they like have this big table and they sit in the room and they have the little boom mics and they just get some people together and just talk about random shit.
Of course, Stern was live.
Right, that was a live radio show. But I feel like the format and what he was doing kind of set the tone for how podcasts would go.
Right, well, it's like, well, why don't we, record an hour and just post it online?
Exactly.
That's how podcasts started.
Right. Well, and
now there's a gajillion podcasts.
And
a speck in a sea of
absolutely.
specs.
But I was watching a thing the other day, and Gary Vee. I don't know if we've talked about him before. He's one of these self-made millionaires, entrepreneur, marketing genius, whatever kind of guy you want to talk about. But that's one of his things. He's like, you want to do something, start a podcast. You do an hour podcast, then you film it. Then you put it on YouTube, and it's like you do these XYZ steps. He's like, and then you just pound it out there, and you just keep doing it. You do shit that you like to do. Talk about stuff you like to do and hype it. And then you get, and then you use it as a marketing platform to basically do what YouTube does. Like, you get sponsorship, and you get ad pay and all shit like that.
Right.
But he talks about it all the time, and it's like, I get it. So, well, here we are having fun doing a podcast. So we do have a podcast that we do regularly, relatively.
So I didn't do the wrestling thing because it didn't feel
right.
Didn't feel right.
Yeah.
So I went freshman, sophomore year without really doing anything. But I had those shoes. I bought those black wrestling shoes.
Okay. Maybe you just
I might have put them for a play.
Maybe.
I might have put them on for
I just remember you being excited about them or having.
I might have been excited to be like, hey, I get to use these shoes and like Camelot.
Maybe that's what it was.
Because we put like a boot.
But I remember you saying that it was a wrestling shoe.
Oh, you know what? Maybe because I just wore them to school one day.
Maybe.
I think that's probably what it was.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I want to wear wrestling shoes. And see, the problem with wearing wrestling shoes is they got no bottom really.
There's no like pad in there. It's like just a right over the bottom of your foot.
Right. So walking was like, it's almost like wearing a sock.
Well, you're
a slipper.
You're a native descendant. They never wore shoes; they just wore the moccasin.
Well, no. See,
I love moccasins, like legit old school style, with no like rubber footy on it, with just like 2 layers of hide.
Bottom.
Yeah, I had a pair that were slippers, and they have like just a little bit of like fur lining on the inside. And no, not these ones. These ones were like straight leather. They were just a little low-cut loafer type shoe.
Piece of material that you're stepping
those were my shoes, dude. I wore those for almost a whole year one time. I think like senior year.
Really?
I would wear them around the house. Not at school.
Okay.
This was after school.
Okay.
Like summer after senior year. But dude, I like wore them everywhere. Like shorts, tank top, and my fucking my moccasinos.
But yeah, so my problem with them was that like now I'm shorter than everyone.
Okay.
Like people that I'm normally like as tall as, maybe even a little taller. Suddenly now I'm dropping.
Well, you lost that half or 3/4 of an inch.
It sucked. And
Interesting.
walking around on those all day sucked. And I think I just wore them around. I was like, hey, check out, I'm wearing my wrestling shoes today.
I don't know why that's a thing in my mind. Like that's such a stupid detail.
No,
like how your memory works. Like right. I just go, I remember that thing, and I'm sure that you remember. Maybe you remember shit. Maybe you don't. That I said or
with
did.
My sister. I just had this conversation with my sister. I was like, hey, do you remember that movie that we went and saw?
Right.
And I told her the whole thing, but then like I also told, and she's like, oh, you got a good memory. I was like, yeah, but then sometimes someone will be like, hey, remember when that happened? And I'll be like, no.
No, I don't.
Yeah,
actually.
It's almost like it's a black hole in my head. Of an event that like that sounded significant, and maybe I do remember it, but not really.
So when do you remember like first being interested? Sure.
For me, I just remember watching it. It's just one of those early memories.
Yeah.
Of like watching it, and I couldn't tell you who, where, when, or why.
Right.
It was probably most likely like a toy. Probably got a toy, and this toy is of a person who is on TV, and they're fighting.
Right.
So for me, I guess it would be Big Boss Man.
Okay.
In WWF, Big Boss Man was a cop.
I think I recall that. What kind of toy? Didn't he have like a fucking nightstick?
He might
that he would bring out sometimes.
In
the ring, like in the ring, like you could bring it out and whack on people with it sometimes or whatever.
Oh, see, that also reminds me. It might have also been a friend. I had a friend that was a neighbor who was a year older than me.
Okay.
Also, could have been like something I was interested by.
Something like an older kid.
By association.
Gotcha.
But the Boss Man toy that I had was a Pillow Buddy.
Oh, okay. I had one of those.
So it was just a
guy. Okay, so on this video that we have playing in the background, there was an intro to this actual match, and the guy was kind of prefacing the match, I think, and in his background, he's got some of the old school wrestling toys from this era on a shelf in the back, and he had one of the Pillow Buddies. Mm-hmm. I don't know which one it was. You could click back just to right at the very beginning of this video. It's just right up on the thing. I think
that one right there.
Yep, there it is, right there.
That looks like
that's a Pillow Buddy.
That
might be a later model.
That is definitely a later model.
Because that one's really defined. Like that one looks like it has actual arms and it has an actual head, and it's like more defined as a person.
And it looks like it's more 3D. The one I had was more flat.
Right. I remember. I had. Okay, so you had Big Boss Man.
I had Big Boss Man.
I was
Warrior.
Macho Man.
Macho Man. And that one looked like a WCW Macho Man.
Yeah, that looked like a later model.
When he was in
Macho
WCW.
Man. Sure.
And he had like the NWO colors rather than the more vibrant early.
Yeah,
WWF.
early, like, okay, so I think I was probably, God, I couldn't have been 3 or 4. Mm-hmm. And I remember one of my like go-to toys, you like have that one toy that you don't ever want to leave when you're little.
Yeah.
You know, I've had a handful of those. I don't. I wish I did, because it'd probably be worth money.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. Well, probably not. It was fucking old and beat, and you know I'd take it with me everywhere.
This is the nostalgia cast.
But the nostalgia part of it would be fun to have. But it was actually a Hulk Hogan.
Actually?
In my mind, you know how it is when you're thinking of stuff that happened when you were little, and then to me it felt like it was just big honking fucking action figure, and it probably wasn't as big as in my mind as I think it is. It was probably like G.I. Joe size.
I think I know where you're going with this, and you're probably wrong. It is a big figure, I believe.
I feel like it was a relatively large figure.
Like a rubber figure that's just in a pose with no points of articulation.
I think so.
Yeah,
I remember having
big rubber wrestling figure.
Yeah.
Do you watch? I know you watch Netflix.
Yeah.
Have you not watched the Toys That Made Us?
I have, yeah.
But you haven't watched the
wrestling
wrestling
I haven't watched
one?
all of them. I haven't watched all of them.
Watch the wrestling one.
Because I started, it's just going to be a nostalgia cast because we're just going to go from thing to thing.
Well, because the toy thing you just mentioned, I got a thing that I could throw into the ring with that.
So I started watching that show, Toys That Made Us, because there was, I think they did Back to the Future.
You're probably thinking of maybe the movies.
That was the movies that made us. Then the other one, it was right. I think there was crossover because they talk about some of the marketing stuff in both. Mm-hmm. I thought I watched it because of either the Ninja Turtles or Ghostbusters.
It would be Ninja Turtles because in the Ghostbusters episode of the movies that made us, they talk about the toys and they say that's a different series.
Okay.
They have never done that episode yet, though.
Okay,
because I had a bunch of those.
So did I.
I would love to watch that episode, but they haven't done that episode.
Okay, so back on wrestling, I don't know if they're doing this with wrestling. Hey, there we go, Stone Cold. So this is funny because you're like playing my interest in wrestling right now. It went from like early days Hulk Hogan, Macho Man, Randy Savage.
Well, let's try and stay in there while we're there.
That's where I started as a little kid, and I had that one pose figure of Hulk Hogan that I took everywhere, and I think I had a Macho Man pillow buddy, and
so
that was
say Ultimate because I've seen a lot of Ultimate Warriors.
That was Ultimate Warrior. Was he the?
He had like the eagle,
like a eagle painted face kind of thing going on,
like colorful. And he had like the arms band streamers,
yeah,
boot streamers, and he was always pulling on the rope, and it was crazy. He was a wild man.
See, and that's I like the way Macho Man sounded.
He also had streamers. Yeah, Macho Man.
He had he always wore like a cowboy hat that was fucking whack colors, and these great big wraparound Oakleys, and he had this just huge fucking in your face beard before that kind of beard was like really popular with most people. And he had the tassel, like, leather jacket and stuff.
With the tassels, streamers. But what was he also, like, you couldn't fucking turn on TV without seeing?
The Slim Jim commercials.
Slim Jim commercial.
But I loved him before that.
Right.
Like, I loved him before he got that commercial, and then that just solidified for everybody else who the Macho Man was. And then
so nutty.
It was funny because is he alive still?
No, he's dead now.
Like, I don't remember when he passed, but I don't think it was that long ago.
I mean, within, like, publicized.
It probably wasn't.
I'll bring up your figures. That's what I'm here for.
So, but I don't know. Even since I was a little kid, I would always do the Macho Man impressions. And
2011.
Wow.
10 years ago.
10 years ago. That's crazy. But he stayed, I don't want to say relevant, but he stayed like kind of in a public eye up until that time, within 10 years of that. Yeah.
And I wanted Slim Jims because of that commercial. I don't really like Slim Jims.
No, they're disgusting. They're greasy and they're hard to chew. It's like chewing on a piece of rolled up paper that's been soaked in grease. That kind of has some like meat flavor to it. Like, oh, this tastes kind of like.
Because you think like, oh, beef jerky, right?
Yeah.
Without having had a Slim Jim, you think, oh, beef jerky.
Exactly.
It don't taste like
definitely not beef jerky. It's like a fucking rolled up piece of greasy newspaper is what it tastes like.
It's a strange thing.
That's the experience that I get from it.
And the commercial, they always snapped it when they fucking...
And they're not ever that snappy unless they are so
like a stick of...
expired.
Like a hard stick of gum.
Like the old... I was just going to say that, the bubble packs or whatever.
But yeah, no, they never snapped, and I always wanted them to snap.
So...
Is Luis here?
And I remember a handful of characters from what I believe to be that era, but then I dropped off for an easy almost 10 years where it wasn't like a main thing. Maybe when I was like 7 or 8 again, I think I picked it up.
All right, hold on. Okay. Well, hold on. Let's stick back.
Okay.
So, yes.
I'll try to go back because they run together and there's a lot of carryover from the old days. I mean, fucking Hulk Hogan was relevant when I came back to it.
I want to say that I didn't watch when Hogan was wrestling.
You would have to have, because he was a big part of that NWO stuff.
Well, no, that's much later. That's when
I know, but look at this is early. I mean, Dwayne Johnson is Dwayne Johnson. Okay, so this would be where we came back into it.
This is right when actually this particular thing is when I stopped the second time.
Oh, really?
This is past when I stopped.
Okay.
But hold on. We're jumping the gun.
Go ahead.
So Hogan, I don't remember.
You don't remember him being
I
around.
remember Hogan marketing. I remember Hulk Hogan being on like a weird Nickelodeon show about like being fat and being bullied, and like he was like, that was me as a kid. He introed it, and then they went into the episode of this kid that was like fat and being bullied,
right,
and overcoming that. But for me, it was Bret Hart. It was Razor Ramon. It was Big Boss Man. It was Undertaker.
I remember
Bushwhackers, Hacksaw Jim Duggan, but no Hogan. I don't remember ever watching Hogan. He had to have left.
I think.
And the big thing for me was when Big Boss Man. Do you remember Big Boss Man?
Was that? No, I'm thinking.
He was a big guy, and he wore blue Cops. T-shirt uniform, button-up Cops T-shirt uniform.
Yeah, I kind of, like I said, I remember him, but I think I remember him having like a cop police cap, like a hat on.
I don't think he ever wore a hat, but he had like a buzz cut.
Okay.
But
maybe that's just something I make up, or I remember from video game. I don't know.
Oh yeah, let's talk about video games too. But the biggest thing for me was like he was wrestling, and I've since looked it up and watched the old stuff, and like it was like an ex-con. Runs into the ring, grabs the nightstick, handcuffs him to the rope, and just beats the shit out of him with the nightstick. And then, he was the guy that was in jail, and Boss Man put him there. And then, in the WF magazine, they used to advertise it, and they showed photos of him all post going to the hospital and all wrapped up and beat up and everything else like that. That was the biggest thing. Like, holy shit, this guy just came out and beat the shit out of Boss Man with a nightstick.
Right.
That to me was that was what wrestling was to me as a kid.
Right.
Early 90s. And it was mostly like Boss Man and Undertaker is who I was into. And then I did have the Nintendo video game.
You had the... What was it called? Do you remember?
There was two of them. There was one that had a steel cage, and then there was like a regular
SmackDown
one.
or something like that.
I think it was just called like WWF
Super Nintendo?
Superstars or something.
Okay.
Like that. No, regular NES.
Oh, regular Nintendo. Okay.
Regular NES. And I played the shit out of that. And like I did not watch Hogan. Like, let's see what year Hogan left.
So yeah, and like I said, he must have left and came back. You know,
well, he went to WCW. Now you got to remember.
Okay, maybe that's
the
difference. Because I used to just watch all of it. Because
yeah, it looked like he left in '93. So I mean, but I don't remember ever watching him wrestle. I just remember those other guys. But I would have to have stopped watching around the same time I was watching. So early '90s, I started and I just stopped. And probably because... Why would I have stopped? It wasn't video games because I didn't get a new system until like '96.
The 50 greatest WWE stars of the '90s.
Well, I mean, number
so
one
now
would be Stone Cold Steve Austin. Even Vince McMahon said he was even more popular than Hogan was at his height.
See, I don't remember all of these names. Ken Shamrock rings a bell.
Sure, Ken Shamrock had the Lions Den here in town.
The what?
The Lions Den.
Okay.
He was a UFC fighter before going into WWF.
Oh, okay.
And he was someone that I watched when I returned to wrestling.
Gotcha.
Something that I'm rewatching right
Badass Billy Dunn.
Gunn. Does it say Dunn on there?
Oh, I'm sorry. It says Gunn. My bad. I went too fast.
Right.
Jerry Lawler.
Oh, I mean, Jerry
Dudley
Lawler.
Boys, didn't they have like matching overalls or something like that? Like that was their...
Well, there's the Godwins that had overalls, but the Dudley Boys kind of wore like fatigues. But like blue fatigues, red fatigues. And it was a black guy and a white guy, and they wore glasses. And one wore a white pair of glasses with like black tape in the center, and the other guy wore the reverse colors. So black glasses, white glasses.
See, I remember...
And they came from ECW. The more extreme wrestling.
Is Lex Luger...
He was someone I watched on WWF who went to WCW.
Mr. McMahon.
Right.
Vince McMahon.
I mean, he owned...
Now, Sid and Sid Vicious, is that the same person?
Probably.
Okay.
But he was Sid Vicious, and then he became, I think, Sid Justice when he went to WCW.
Okay. Chris Jericho.
Chris Jericho was someone that came from WCW into WWF.
Goldust. Who was the guy? Because I know Undertaker, he wore a mask.
No, Undertaker did not wear a mask.
No?
No. At one point...
Who am I thinking of?
You're probably thinking of Kane, who was Undertaker's brother.
Maybe that's what it was.
And he wore a red and black mask.
Okay.
And had a red and black costume.
Because there were a handful of characters that I recall wearing masks that didn't ever talk.
Kane. Kane was the only one.
Okay.
Kane was the only mask-wearing wrestler that didn't talk, I believe. But mostly all the other ones I can think of.
I'll go with that.
Vader talked, if you want to call that a mask.
Yeah. Big Van Vader.
So when did you stop, and why did you stop? Do you know?
I don't think I was, like, when you're talking between, like, 3 and 5, like, I wasn't ever watching wrestling. Like, it was probably one of those things that came on during prime time at some point on the television, and it might have been on, or somebody in the house watched it, because it was, I mean, between those ages...
Did your dad watch it?
My dad would have watched something like that. I mean, he would have been...
You think so?
Yeah, I mean, he'd have been early 20s, dude.
Yeah, but like...
So... Yeah, he probably... remember the era, though. Remember the time. This is a time of, 8 to 10 channels. Satellite television was a big deal. Cable TV was expensive. You didn't really need cable TV back then.
I don't remember anything.
Especially being poor. Like, growing up and living in apartments, or, unless it was already there, like, I don't even know when like cable TV became a thing.
I do. It would have.
I remember having it growing up because you had
the package got bigger.
You had like a cable box and it had the little clicker channels. It was a digital channel changer.
See, I never had a cable box.
See, we did. We had.
My grandmother had a cable box.
We had cable boxes at one point, and I remember when it went to being just on the TV. But we had like tube TVs, like old school clicker channel tube TVs. So I think you would put it on, the channel 3 or 4, and then the cable box would run through that. Mm-hmm. And then you had the remote control. I remember that was like, you couldn't turn the TV on and off with it, but you could change the channel with it. But if you think back to when we're between 3 and 5 years old, when I first was exposed to wrestling, I guess.
So you're saying you weren't super into it?
I wasn't like, you can't be super into anything when you're 3 or 5 years old.
Aware of it.
But I was aware of it, and I had this action figure guy. And then I don't really remember being, quote unquote, into it. I mean, that's like up to 1990.
Yeah. I can't even remember anything before 5, dude.
I've got some stuff that goes way too far back. Like stuff that I can't explain remembering.
Right.
And then it wasn't really a big deal for me, I think, until I was, I don't know, like it might have been on and off. Like I would see it on television and I would watch it because when I got my own room and had my own TV in my room, so probably we're talking like 7, 8, 9. It was an evening thing. Like it was an evening television show that would have been on,
See, that's
6, 7, 8 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
So to eat dinner and then
on a Monday probably. 8, 9 o'clock on a Monday.
Because I remember my schedule like revolving around certain things. Like during the morning, I would get up at a certain hour so that I could make myself something to eat and watch, these shows that were on first thing in the morning that I like to watch. I like to watch Mr. Wizard.
Yes,
Mr. That was
on
at like early first thing in the morning. And if you got up, you could watch like Woody Woodpecker and Mr. Wizard, and then there was something else after that. But I would always wanted to get up early enough to watch that show.
I hated that fucking shit.
I mean, it was like
there was like Nick Arcade was on early.
Okay.
For me,
I don't remember that. I just remember having at that time having like really general channel selections.
Nickelodeon.
So.
But you had WWF at the time and WCW. There were the two options of wrestling to watch.
And I don't know that I was picky. I don't think I cared.
Maybe even aware that
I knew that they were two separate things, but not always being able to watch every night or every event. Mm-hmm. I couldn't watch every Monday night, or I couldn't watch every whatever.
I would hit
the other
record
nights
on
were.
a tape because I knew I would fall asleep.
Yeah.
Not unlike how I am these days. I'll push play on a movie and I'll fall asleep. Because I like to wake up early.
Sure.
Well, I mean, my body is in that spot, but that's what I prefer anyways.
Yeah.
I don't like staying up late, but maybe that's just...
Maybe it's just you.
Hard ingrained into me. I think the reason why I stopped the first time is probably because I started reading more.
See, I did not start reading until I was I read, but I didn't read for fun until high school.
And I read a lot. And I think that's probably when I stopped with wrestling, is because I was probably reading.
And there was just something better
and watching
occupy your mind.
Watching cartoons.
Yeah.
I don't know about better. I mean, who's
I mean, at the time, to you, was obviously better than watching wrestling because you quit watching it.
Or more interested.
More interesting.
So, and then, the real deep dive into wrestling that will never be equaled or matched, I started to go in and eat breakfast at O'Brien. Right.
Okay.
I'd go in early enough and get the bagel with the cream cheese or whatever they had
for
the day. And all those dudes talked about wrestling. So every Tuesday or whatever, because that'd be after Monday Night Raw. They always talked about wrestling. Fucking like that was church for them.
Right.
And I was like, okay, fine, I'll start watching. I used to watch, right?
Right.
And so I started watching, and that's because of the WWE Network app, which is now on Peacock, unfortunately, I can track down to when I started watching, and it was like November of '98 was when I started rewatching, and then when I got really into it and watched religiously, and I got all the toys that they had back then. And I started renting the tapes of the pay-per-views at Star Video and bringing them home.
God, Star Video.
And copying them.
Backing them up.
Dubbing them.
Backing them up. Physical media backup.
I would, tape the tapes, hook up 2 VCRs up to a TV, hit play on one and record on the other, and then I would have those old pay-per-views to watch. But yeah, so like for me, I want to say it was probably right around November '98 to November 2001 when I really watched wrestling. And I want to say doing the play in the fall winter of 2001 kind of got me out of watching wrestling, and just a matter of something else occupying my mind, because there's really no reason why I couldn't have kept watching. It just kind of transitioned naturally. Watching more movies. And
being more active in that other art form.
Right. So like, yeah, I was just, the movie art form, the acting art form. And, I just kind of just drifted out of it. And probably because the people that I watched it with and interacted with, so my buddy Mikey, who I'm still friends with, and Dean Anderson, who I was like my best friend back then, like we weren't in the same circles anymore.
Right.
So like those guys that I watched wrestling with, Mikey moved away, so I didn't really see him. We went to O'Brien together, and then he moved over to like Worcester, Park Lane. Is it Park Lane? Where Worcester is? Yeah. You don't even know?
I have no idea. I didn't go to that school. And then
he dropped out, so I didn't see him as often. No one ever got any cars. He still doesn't have a license.
Right.
So
I never thought you would drive, so there's that.
Well, when you live far away from your job, you kind of have to. So it's not like it was something that I got naturally because I had to get it.
Right.
So yeah, so that era of '98 to 2001, that was my wrestling era where I was
like
deep into it. Like that was my thing, and I wanted to wrestle. That was when I wanted to be a professional wrestler. That was my goal. That's why I joined the wrestling team at Hug.
Right.
But I knew that wasn't what this is.
No, but part of
and wrestling back then was on everything too. Like during MTV's summer break, they had a bunch of crossover with wrestlers going on their programs.
Sure.
So like wrestling was on and there was a bunch of like new like Undertaker out of comic book. Undertaker was on did a voice on this cartoon on MTV, and Mankind was in an episode of this show that was on USA Network. Like there was a lot of crossover with wrestling back then.
Right. Well, it was still
more so than now.
Oh yeah.
You got people that are
now,
like John Cena's in movies and The Rock's in movies, but like
yeah, now what's the popular sport now? If you want to talk about fighting, what's the popular sport?
About fighting?
MMA.
I guess.
Right? Cage fighting. That's what's popular. Like this is still fun for some people because the theater of it is entertaining. There's no doubt that there is a huge physical demand for this type of entertainment.
Right. Will these guys work out?
You have to be in good fucking shape to do what they're doing.
You gotta know how to do a move. You gotta know how to take a move. You gotta know how to land.
Exactly, and
to not kill yourself.
It's a ballet. It's an entire art form of its own.
Right.
Now, the interest, mainstream wise, because
cage fighting. Like if football movies were put together, you get professional wrestling.
Right. Cage fighting was very underground back then.
It was kind of like the response to professional wrestling.
It was. It was like, oh, well, professional wrestling's so fake. which is fine. I mean, the actual fighting, to a degree, is fake.
I would say
they're not actually trying to hurt each other.
They're not actually trying to, but they actually can get hurt.
Well, sure.
They're actually slamming down and hurting themselves.
Absolutely. But do you think this is... And it's not a debate about the realness of wrestling, but I mean, do you think that the prospect of the actual contest of wrestling in professional wrestling is real?
No.
There you go.
I mean, the outcomes are already preconceived.
Exactly. Because you can't do this the way they do it without rehearsing it.
Right.
Without already knowing what everybody's going to do and performing the show. So it's about the show. But what it takes, the flexibility and the strength it takes to do what they're doing is immense. And there's no doubt about that. Right. But like you said, the response to professional wrestling
and
as an entertainment source,
being boring as fuck.
Boxing, yeah, I mean, you get these guys that they slug it out for 10 rounds. Sometimes you get a heavyweight. Nobody wants to watch any kind of boxing other than heavyweight because these guys fucking clock the shit out of each other and go the fuck down, right? They beat the crap out of each other. What's more entertaining than that?
Well, I think when they locked up Tyson, they kind of lost the interest in boxing worth watching.
Right.
I mean, because I've tried watching boxing, and I had HBO, and I was like, oh, there's a boxing match on.
Yeah, it's just real. It's very stiff. It's a stiff art form. It was
not Rocky.
No.
And I think that was the problem with me trying to watch a boxing match. Like, this isn't Rocky.
Right, because you have an expectation of what you want it to be.
Boring.
Because you've already been interested in wrestling. So now boxing is going to be boring as fuck. What do you mean everybody stands in the ring nicely and just punches each other? That's gay. That's not fun. If they actually fucking hit each other. That's why I don't like boxing. I'd rather watch hockey.
Sure, and I've never watched it.
I mean, I like watching hockey just because they fucking decide to duke it out. There he is, Vince McMahon. So... But the transition is, okay, wrestling's fake. They're not actually beating the shit out of each other. Let's go to a sport that they've been doing for a while where they're actually beating the shit out of each other. And the rules are very fucking few. You know what I mean? Like, there are very few fights. I remember early cage fighting when I'm, maybe 9, 10 years old. And I saw a pay-per-view cage match. And that was the only way you could watch it. It was pay-per-view only. And very few people would pay the money to watch the fight. Mm-hmm. And I had a friend of my mom's, her husband was into wrestling and loved to watch cage fights. And they would have people over and shit, and we'd go over and play with the kids, and sometimes we'd come out and we'd watch the fight. And I just remember one match where this dude had, like, this guy bowled up on the ground, like, his legs were in such a position where his nutsack was exposed, not outside of his clothing, but he was wearing trunks like the wrestlers wear, and they're wearing real thin gloves, if any gloves at all, and he's just sitting here fucking punching this dude in the dick in this match. Yeah, that's early cage fighting, dude. It was. You
can't do that now.
You can't do that now. That's against the rules. But early days of cage fighting. There were no rules.
I would kill somebody.
You had to tap out or get knocked out.
If someone did that to me, I would kill them.
And that was
Balls
the point.
do not have.
Yeah, there's no protection there.
No.
Balls are off. Those are off limits.
It's like a grape. If you were to step on it, the same thing would probably happen.
That's making me feel ill just thinking about getting hit in the nuts.
It's terrible.
But that was, and it was edgy. You're talking about a fight where people are used to seeing professional wrestling or boxing. Pro wrestling looks like theater. There's a story being told. They're doing this for entertainment. I think
the story aspect is what really drew me in.
It's fun. It's fun to watch them tell this story and the backstage, and this guy's a dickhead, and now they're backstabbing this guy together, and I
think those years that I watched were prime years for the storytelling.
Sure.
The Attitude Era, as it's now known, was the era to watch. Now it's just a modern era, and everything is a little bit more even. I want to say.
Right.
It's not so
much like, theater.
It's not so compartmentalized.
Right.
There's still that, but it's. I think they've streamlined it to a point.
Have you ever been to a live match?
I have not.
So I did get to go once.
You went to a live one of these?
I went to a live wrestling match, yeah. At Lawler Event Center. My uncle got...
Was this in 2000?
Tickets from somebody. It was here in town. I don't remember how long ago it was. I guess maybe...
Because I remember when they came, and like, man, they never come here.
Yeah, and that was why...
It wasn't even a televised event, though.
That's why we went... Yeah, it was just that match, and it was cool. Because that was the time when I was watching wrestling on TV. I think I told you before, my uncle and I were roommates at that time. Like he was staying at our house, so him and I were sharing a room. And we had bunk beds, and he was sleeping on the top bunk. And at night after dinner, we would go out and we would watch, SmackDown or whatever the Monday night. I think it was Monday and Wednesday or something like that. I don't remember what nights all the fighting was on, but we would watch it on those nights after dinner on cable TV. And I remember him coming home from work one day. He's like, "Hey, dude, I got tickets to this wrestling match if you want to go." And it's like sick. So it was like me and him, and I don't know if my little brother went or somebody else went with us. It was me and him and somebody else. It was it might have been one of my friends that went with us. But we go in there, and they weren't like ringside seats or anything like these people you can see. Not really nosebleeds, but we were in. So like if the ring was in the middle of the basketball court in Lawler, like where the basketball court would be.
I mean, I can only assume. The only time I've ever been to Lawler was fucking the day I graduated.
Okay, so there's a stage on one end of the arena.
I mean, I know what a basketball game looks like. Yeah. I've seen them on TV.
Yeah. So if you imagine the size of that basketball court, that's what's in the middle. Mm-hmm. So if you have a stage show, they put the stage on one end of that court and then build it up maybe into the first row of seating and then the next row out. But there's floor seats and then there's the next rows up. So we were up in the first rung of not floor seats.
So all those graduating, okay, I was at mine and I've been to a couple others. Those seats are way up in the air.
Yeah, they're pretty...
Is that how it was? Like, I mean... These are obviously... There's no spots for people to be sitting right up front, is there? Unless they brought out a bunch of chairs, which is probably what they have right there.
Yeah, it's all the people down here ringside, those are all just chairs.
They just bring chairs in for these guys.
Or maybe bleachers. Right on the ringside. So there might be chairs right up close, very close ringside, and then right behind that there's probably a single stack row of bleachers. And then once you get past that first row, then it's that next mezzanine level. So,
all right. So you went.
So we go to this match, and I remember.
It was this, right? It was WWF at the time. Had to have been, unless it was some fucking bullshit.
Hang on, no, it wasn't, because there was one or two like decent name wrestlers that were there, and I don't know. It was Goldberg. I think. Didn't he do the beer thing?
No, Stone Cold.
Oh, was that Stone Cold?
Stone Cold does the beer thing.
Okay. So Stone Cold's WWF.
Yes.
Is Goldberg
WCW.
Would there be any reason for them to fight each other?
I don't think they ever got around to it. I mean, in 2001, Vince McMahon bought WCW and eventually bought ECW and owned fucking everything.
Right.
So there would be no
beating
reason.
His ass with a folding chair.
I don't think they ever got around to doing a Goldberg versus Stone Cold. They might have, but like
because those guys were like their character was real similar,
right?
Like their attitude.
I think it was because if Goldberg had like long hair and wore a shirt, and like did the same exact thing that he did, I don't think nobody would have
put them together,
right? But because they were both bald guys with the Van Dyke, and the black trunks.
Pretty much. The only way I could tell them apart, I think, because he wears a knee braces, and I think Goldberg wears a knee brace too.
I mean, that's what happens.
I think a lot of guys end up wearing them.
At this point, he's got two.
I remember at one point one of the other or both of them only had one on at one time.
Yeah, and Stone Cold had one for And
but I remember it was definitely Stone Cold, and if Stone Cold was the beer, guy that did the beer thing, and he come out wearing, and it was like I don't even remember the wrestlers that were at that match, right? But I remember knowing that he was going to be there, and that was why we were excited because we liked watching him, and. He comes out and they do some shit talking and they do the fucking beat down and some people get whacked with some folding chairs and he beats the shit out of this dude and he gets up on the side of the ring and somebody in the fucking in the audience hawks him a couple of fucking PBRs and he fucking opens them up and does a smashy thing and is the signature thing that he did and it was, I think it was, I want to say it took like a couple hours overall to do the whole thing. And it was good. It was fun to watch. And it was like going to a concert or a play where it's a different experience to watch it on TV because they can make these people look big. Because you can put a camera in this guy's face and make him look huge. I mean, you shoot at him from a low angle like this, he looks like a big, imposing dude.
Right.
Not all of them are.
No.
Some of them are. Like, I'm sure if you walked up next to Dwayne Johnson or Undertaker on the street and you see them, like, Dwayne Johnson is way fucking bigger now, like, width-wise and muscle mass than he was back then.
Yeah.
But still, if you'd have walked up to one of those guys in the late 90s, early 2000s, they're fucking big dudes. But on TV, everybody gets to be a big dude.
Yeah.
Because they can make you look big. And it's about the yelling and the trash talking and the lights and
the spectacle.
The spectacle of being there. It's like, I don't like watching baseball on television. I will, like if I'm at a sports bar.
This is sports entertainment, and they take out all the boring shit and keep in all the entertainment parts, and they keep it going for 3 hours, 2-3 hours.
So if I'm at a bar and it's on, I'll watch it, but I'm not going to be like, oh, the fucking Braves are playing this weekend. I got to sit down in front of the TV and watch the baseball game.
What about football?
I still don't give a fuck. I'll watch the Super Bowl, but it's more of an excuse to get buddies together and get hammered and eat nachos. It's not about the football game, or it's about watching it together. Like I wouldn't sit down and watch a game alone.
It's funny,
but I would go.
I
would go to a physical game. I love going to baseball games at the stadium. Football's okay.
It's so funny that none of my friends are sports guys, and I'm not. You would think that the odds would put somebody in. The odds would
make it so
somebody watches sports. Dakota doesn't watch sports, as far as I know.
And it's not because I think the sport is bad. It's just that I don't like watching it on TV. It doesn't do anything for me.
I'd rather play it.
Yeah, I'd rather play it.
I'd rather get a couple guys together. Let's throw a ball around.
Yeah.
But I don't love it so much that I'm going to watch it. I think it's boring as fuck and lame.
There are a handful of games. That I will watch, like every year. San Francisco and Oakland play.
Mm-hmm.
And
Bay Area game.
Because I think Oakland's a better baseball team than San Francisco.
About baseball.
Yeah.
I thought we were still talking about football.
But the Battle of the Bay, I will watch that game. It's a 3-game series, I think, and I would watch that just to see who wins because A's usually do, which is funny because they even win on years when the Giants
have a better club
and they make it further to the playoffs or into the playoffs or win the fucking World Series, but Oakland kicks their fucking ass.
Gotta psych themselves out. That's probably what it is.
So yeah,
like we're gonna win this year, guys.
Is this the Undertaker?
That's the Undertaker.
Okay. So, that's the era that I was probably most involved in was
Well, Undertaker
Stone Cold.
30 years.
I know, but
Stone Cold last year.
Stone Cold and
The
Rock and Goldberg and from the other franchise, and I remember Hulk Hogan. Okay, Hulk Hogan
became Hollywood Hogan when he went to
became WCW Hollywood Hogan
because Hulk was WWF
right
character,
and then there was
so he had the black like fucking weak stubble, but then he still had the white handlebar mustache. But his colors were no longer red and yellow; they were black.
Right.
And he had like lightning.
And that was like that New World Order bullshit, right?
Yeah, New World Order.
Because I remember...
Then that was made up of all the guys that just left WWF. So Scott Hall, who was Razor Ramon, Kevin Nash, who was Diesel. All those guys left WWF, came over to WCW, and became the New World Order.
Okay. So that was that time period when I was like watching and interested.
And Sting had long black hair and the crow makeup instead of the Ultimate Warrior look with a buzzed bleach haircut.
Okay.
Bleach colored buzz cut with like green or pink makeup, more like Ultimate Warrior, and he was more like the beach version of Sting. That's how he started.
Okay.
And then when the New World Order came on, he became the Crow. So
right. And I just remember like everything like that was the storytelling, right? That was the part for me that was fun. Was watching that back and forth and watching them build this little franchise where it's these guys against these guys, and then they're getting this guy to backstab somebody else, and this guy's spying on somebody else.
We don't have our headsets on.
No, that's okay. I was watching the levels.
All right.
We're good.
Okay. Oh, man, my ass. Fucking this chair sucks.
Well, what are we at? We're at 125?
I don't feel like we're... I mean, yeah.
I'm not worried
about
podcast.
Time.
Just tune in next time for the toys that we made. No.
So what was your toy, by the way? I think, I think we got a good amount.
Yeah, no, and that's... But, I mean, to me, that's, like, the extent of my wrestling knowledge. Like, I remember, Bret the Hitman Hart. And I remember... I don't remember all their names all the time. I remember Gold Dust. I always thought he was fruity.
Well, that was the thing.
Right.
He was androgynous.
Okay, there you go. Undertaker and Kane. There was... And like
Triple H.
Triple X. Was that the same guy? No? Two different guys?
I don't know what the fuck Triple X is beyond fucking Vin Diesel. Oh, you think X-Pac.
Maybe.
I mean, Degeneration X was the stable.
Was that his? That. Okay. But stuff like that, like I remember that universe, and like this would be a match. I have no fucking clue who those guys are other than the Undertaker because he came out.
And Shawn Michaels.
And
these are the two longest running WWF employees.
Okay, that's crazy.
So they both. They started in like 90, and then they went until they retired, and Undertaker just retired.
And the only one still wearing chaps.
That's what he wore back then, and that's what he keeps wearing.
So, but it was pretty limited, and I would say like less than 3 to 5 years
WrestleMania
of interest
is tonight.
Time. So what's the big match for WrestleMania tonight? Who are the big fighters?
Well, see, the thing is WrestleMania is now a 2-night event. So it's 3 hours tonight, or maybe even 4, and 3-4 hours tomorrow night.
Wow.
I mean, it's all the title matches. Like, if I even said any of these names, I barely know who they are, so I doubt you're going to know who they are.
Yeah, probably not.
Only because I've watched the last couple of pay-per-views and talked to Greg a little bit, but, like, I mean... World title on the line, Bobby Lashley and Drew McIntyre.
Nope. See, but I've been removed from it now for an additional 25 years.
20 years, yeah, me too. Like I said, I stopped right around 2001, and here I am getting back into it again in 2020.
It's a completely different crew.
Well, it's just like everybody is a generic, like, Speedo white guy.
Generic Speedo white guy.
Yeah,
there's no big character anymore. Yeah.
There's one.
Because I remember, like, early on when I was watching it on TV, it was like there would be some,
there's no
house cleaning early on, and then, there was the backstage parts where they would have, somebody. Sometimes there was like a dialogue thing backstage, and somebody was always fucking with somebody else.
Yeah.
Or they were trying to get there was some gritty, and then they'd have some who cares these guys match, as the young guys, they would come out and they would fight each other, and then they're like, oh,
Jobbers.
and then it's always tonight. It's going to be this title. It's
up.
always some championship title build up to the main event that was always pay-per-view.
I think
whatever, like the title transfer fights were always pay-per-view.
Were always pay-per-view. And if they ever changed hands on a Raw on TV, they probably didn't change for very long.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. Because sometimes some of the more interesting guys got a title on like a Raw. Like my guy Mankind, he won his title on Raw, but then I think he lost it at the pay-per-view.
Thing like, oh, he got the title, but there's a challenger at this pay-per-view, and then there's always frequently there's a beatdown, there's this big upset on the other end that you're either expecting or not expecting.
The biggest upsets always came when the babyface, the good guy, turned heel. The bad
right,
guy.
when he turned into the bad guy.
And those were always the biggest surprises because you like them for so long, and then like they fuck over your favorite guy, and it's like, oh, man, I liked him too.
Yep. Well, it was like the tag team matches, and then somebody random comes from backstage and just interferes in the match.
Rewatching with the app, I started watching in '96, April 1st in '96. That's when Mankind first appeared. And a lot of those 96 matches, you can tell who's going to win. You can tell that this guy's nobody, the other guy's somebody. And whenever they put two of those guys together to fight each other, it was always going to end in disqualification because someone was going to run out who they were feuding with.
Right.
They never played out with, like, this person won that match. It was always a disqualification. And you never find out who was going to be the better wrestler out of these two named guys opposed to the...
Because there was always an interference there.
There was always an interference.
Yeah.
So you could always tell what the outcome was going to be.
So.
But yeah, so nowadays, it feels very like all these guys are just Speedo guys, white Speedo guys.
Yeah.
There's some black guys in there too, and they got a lot more women wrestlers now.
Yeah.
But for the most part, there's no real mask guys. There's one mask guy, and that guy I think is interesting. But other than that, they're all just white Speedo guys.
Yep, just a white Speedo guy. But like I said, the popular thing for people who are in this kind of shape to do now is to go do fucking MMA fighting.
And
that's the popular
vice versa. And when they're
thing.
tired of really beating the shit out of each other, they'll go and become a professional wrestler.
Yeah, or they'll go just onto movies and
die.
Well, and a lot of these guys go on to do movies. I mean, look at John Cena. Like in fact, that era, like I want to say, early mid 2000s. There was a push from WWF. Or WWE, one or the other. One of the two franchises.
World Wildlife Foundation. I think maybe sued.
One of those two franchises, they stepped out and they're like, we're gonna throw some money at producing films.
WWE does. Every time there's a wrestler in a movie, you see WWE Productions or produced it.
So, and I remember seeing some of those. That's where you had.
Marine.
Yeah, the Marine. Who was that?
John Cena.
That was John Cena. There's another guy that was popular to have on there. That was a wrestler, and now it's popular for MMA fighters to transition to filmmaking. But like I said, it's because they're in fucking good ass shape, doing what they're doing. They have a lot of fucking choreographic training.
Right.
If you can teach one of those guys to fucking deliver lines, which they do. I mean, the trash talking is line delivery.
Right.
The
better you're at it, the better the audience will believe it. The more they're going to push for you to be a good guy, bad guy, and be on mic.
Johnson was always really good at delivering, his trash talk on the mic, and he was always fun to listen to. And it doesn't surprise me at all that he made such an easy transition into filmmaking.
He's like the only one. I mean, I know others have. John Cena, I think, is number 2.
I think John Cena would be 2.
But, you couldn't name another one.
I think Randy Couture was a fighter initially.
But, I barely feel like a presence of
He's not like Dwayne Johnson has his own
next
movies.
To that guy.
Huh?
You pissed next to that guy.
I wish.
No, you said you did.
Didn't I? Didn't I say I wasn't sure?
No, you said like, oh, that guy's Randy Couture. That guy was pissing next to me at the stall.
That was in Vegas.
Yeah.
Because he was at the thing.
He was at the award show.
See, but that's the thing about Randy Couture. He's not a main.
How big was he?
He's not that big.
If you were right next to him, fucking checking out his junk.
I wasn't checking out his junk. And right next to him means at least a stall away, and you don't look at the other guy while you're pissing.
Well, yeah, but you could feel.
You see him on the walk up.
Was he big or just like a regular guy?
When they're wearing suits,
right,
like suit jackets,
they're all wearing suits.
Guys like that don't look that big.
Right.
They have broad shoulders, but your jacket can make you look like you have broad shoulders.
Yeah. I
always kind of just look chunky and round in a suit, with squared off at the top, I guess. But he wasn't huge.
Right.
He was about our height. Like he was, plus or minus a few inches one way, a couple inches one way or the other. You wouldn't notice it, like unless you stood next to him and went like this.
Didn't you also have an incident with the horror movie guy that was in makeup and shit?
I didn't have an incident with him necessarily.
You called him like a chode or something like that.
He was a chode.
Yeah, but says who? Like, why would you say that? Did he fondle your ass when you were coming out of the bathroom?
He hung out over there. Like, because I was getting bored. Yeah, he was. But nobody knew that.
So he looked.
He just looked like a fucking homeless person hanging out. Doing. I know. Oh, fuck.
It was like man. What was it, mankind? Because that's the rest of it. It was like it was like Undying or Man Undying.
I don't remember it being weird.
Man, what was it?
And doesn't he have a podcast or something? Or
I think he was one of those movie host guys, like Elvira.
Oh yeah. That's what he did. Zombo.
Oh, it was like Man something. It was Man something.
I'll have to look it up.
Manscape.
So.
All right, let's wrap this up. You said you had a toy that you didn't want to get rid of.
It's not that I didn't want to get rid of.
It was
that was my Hulk Hogan action figure.
Oh, that was it? It wasn't something else?
No. It was that Hulk Hogan action figure. I just remember having it for so long. And then, like, a lot of other things I had when I was a kid, just eventually it's not there anymore. Because it's not a point.
Threw it away?
It's not a point of interest anymore. Like, probably ended up in the toy box, and then I never played with it.
Toys.
And then, but I mean, you have toys where you, like, come back around to it eventually. But when you're a little kid, your parents go, oh, fuck, he doesn't ever play with that anymore. We'll just box that up. And I try as a parent to be conscious of that. Because I go, oh, he doesn't play with that anymore. But that's the kind of thing that when he's 20 or 30, he's going to go, man, I wish I still had that toy from when I was a kid because those were fucking cool. Like, my kid's probably got, like, $500 or $600 worth of these fucking Beyblade toys now. And when he's done with them, I'm gonna put them in a box. I'm gonna box them all up for him.
Contact points.
And I don't care if they sit in the garage until he's 30. That's one of those things that he is so into right now.
He doesn't throw them away. Because I've thrown shit away.
I did the same thing. Like, I sold shit at yard sales that I'm like, I don't want these anymore.
I had so many wrestling toys, I sold them at a yard sale.
My Ninja Turtles, dude. Like, gone at a yard sale.
Mine was a Snake Eyes G.I. Joe. And I eventually bought it again.
Okay.
Like in 2001, 2003.
So on next eBay. Time's podcast, we're going to do the toys that made us.
We absolutely can talk about toys.
I think that would be a good enough one because toys are coming back around and we're at that point in our life, and manufacturing like refry is coming around to our era where our toys are being.
I can absolutely.
So I think that's going to be next time on Sequel Podcast. It's been a pleasure being on the show again.
Thank you, Cory, for joining us on the companion. affiliation.
My production affiliation.
Alright, well, I'm at Bonta.
And I'm Cory Easley.
Peace out.